The rain tapped softly against the window as David sat alone in his small apartment, staring at the framed photo in his hands. His ex-wife, Emily, smiled back at him, a smile that once brought him joy but now only stirred sorrow. It had been 6 months since the divorce papers were signed, yet the ache in his heart felt as raw as the day she left. The memories of their life together flooded his mind like the rain that fell outside, each drop a reminder of laughter, warmth, and connection now lost to the cold reality of solitude. The silence of the room weighed heavily on him, a stark contrast to the life he once knew. Friends had drifted away, their lives continuing while he felt stuck in a loop of grief and regret. David had tried to numb the pain through work, late nights, and fleeting distractions, but nothing filled the void left behind by Emily's absence. The walls of his apartment echoed with the silence that had become his only companion, amplifying his sense of failure. He often replayed moments in his mind, wishing he could go back and change the arguments, the misunderstandings, the moments when he prioritized his career over their marriage. One Sunday morning, restless and weary, David found himself walking past a small church a few blocks from his apartment. The faint sound of hymns floated through the air, stopping him in his tracks. Without fully knowing why, he stepped inside, drawn by an inexplicable pull. The warm light filtering through the stained glass windows cast colorful patterns across the wooden pews, creating an atmosphere that felt almost sacred. A sense of peace, unfamiliar yet comforting, settled over him as he sat quietly in the back, allowing the music to wash over him. The pastor's words spoke directly to his heart. "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." David's chest tightened, and tears welled in his eyes. For the first time in months, hope flickered within him, a fragile flame igniting in the darkness of his despair. When the service ended, he approached the pastor, a kind-eyed man named Pastor Reed, and shared his story. They prayed together, and as David left the church, he felt lighter, though uncertainty still clung to his mind like a shadow. The following weeks brought both blessings and trials. David began reading the Bible, discovering truths that stirred his soul and challenged his perspectives. Yet the journey was far from easy. Memories of his past mistakes haunted him, the arguments with Emily, the words he wished he could take back, and the nights he chose work over their marriage. Guilt whispered that he was unworthy of God's grace, that he didn't deserve the peace he had begun to feel. Temptations also lingered, like old friends beckoning him back to familiar habits. Friends who once encouraged his reckless choices questioned his newfound faith. "Come on, David," they'd say, their voices dripping with disbelief. "One night out won't hurt." The pull of his former life was strong, the allure of distraction almost irresistible. But each time he faced that temptation, he remembered the peace he had found in that church, the warmth of belonging that had begun to fill the empty spaces in his heart. One night, loneliness struck with full force. David sat on his bed, the Bible open before him, yet his heart felt heavy. Frustrated, he cried out, "God, why is this so hard? Why can't I just move on?" In the stillness that followed, a thought pierced through the noise. "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Those words resonated deep within him, a lifeline thrown into the turbulent waters of his despair. David wiped his eyes and took a deep breath. Slowly, he began to understand that healing wouldn't come overnight. God was transforming his heart, teaching him patience, humility, and forgiveness, both toward Emily and himself. As months passed, David grew stronger in his faith. He joined a men's Bible study, finding support from others who understood his struggles. The camaraderie he found there was a balm for his wounded spirit, a reminder that he was not alone in his journey. He also reached out to Emily, not to rekindle their marriage, but to offer a sincere apology for the pain he had caused. Her response was gracious, filled with understanding that came from shared sorrow. Though the wounds between them could not be undone, the weight of regret lifted from David's heart, allowing him to breathe a little easier. 1 year after stepping into that small church, David stood before the congregation, sharing his testimony. His voice, steady and clear, echoed through the sanctuary as he spoke of heartbreak, redemption, and the relentless love of Christ. He shared the struggles he had faced, the doubts that had threatened to consume him, and the grace that had slowly transformed his life. "I once believed my failures defined me," he said, "but God showed me that my past doesn't determine my future. Through His grace, I've found a new beginning." As the congregation applauded, David stepped down from the pulpit, his heart overflowing with gratitude. Though life's challenges still arose, he faced them with a faith that could not be shaken. He had learned to embrace the uncertainty of life, understanding that each day was a gift, an opportunity to grow and to love. His journey had only begun, but he walked forward with confidence, knowing that no obstacle could stand against the one who had called him by name. In the depths of loss, David had found the greatest treasure of all, a life transformed by the love of Jesus Christ. He realized that the rain outside, once a symbol of his sorrow, now nourished the seeds of hope planted within him, promising new growth and the possibility of brighter days ahead.